Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm doing pretty good, in spite of things that have happened today. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. I've had a pretty good week. It's been a busy one, but it's been a good one. It's been satisfying this week. So, I'm in otherwise a pretty good mood. Other than, as I say, kind of information that I learned this afternoon, which is not very nice. And I'm not really going to go into detail too terribly much. Suffice to say that, shall we say that COVID-19 has kind of come fairly close to home. So, yeah. It's pretty sad. Pretty very sad, actually. But I'm here for you guys, and I'm here for your Studio One questions, and I'm here for your songwriting, composing, arranging, music making in general questions. That's what I'm here for, and I'm here to serve you guys. So, please do start getting your questions into the chat, and we can cover a whole range of things tonight. So, I'm up for it. I'm up for your questions. I'm up for having some fun with you guys because you guys are awesome. And yeah, there's only 10 of us here at the moment, so it might be a short show. It depends. Depends on how good your questions are and how many people we have. If we only have a small crowd, I know it's Labor Day tomorrow, so some of you are probably having an extended weekend doing fun stuff, and that's cool. So if you're not here, that's okay, and you're catching this on the replay, please do, if you have a question, feel free to email me the question and I can make a video out of it, or we can cover it in an episode of Sunday Night Live. Absolutely cool to do that. But that said, we've only got like 11 people here, but you guys in the chat have been fairly busy, and you're all being very nice to me, which I appreciate a lot. Tony is here, Tony Stringer. He says, yeah! Thomas over in the Philippines is here as well. Just Bob is here. Marcos over in Brazil. Michael at Music to Motion is here. Louis from Alps Media is also here as well, which is pretty cool. John Lake is here. He says, take the night off if you need it. Yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'd let you guys know if I wasn't, for sure. Don Oliver is here. He says, hello, people. Hello, Don. How are you? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Dwayne is here. He says, still loving those HD7s. Yes, the HD7s are awesome. I have a whole bunch of these. And that one's caught on the mic stand. But yes, I have a whole bunch of these, and I have a whole bunch of HD9s as well. And they're great. The HD7s are really good. They're just good all-round studio headphones. They're semi-open backed, which means they're good for mixing, but you could also certainly use them for recording, providing you don't have the volume of the headphones up too loud. But they will certainly work as a general purpose studio headphone because of that semi-open back nature. They're not fully open back, which I think is really sneaky clever design by the geniuses in our products department. They're really, really good. Lowenz is here. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome. So yeah, they're not fully open backed, so they're really good for mixing, but they're also pretty good for recording as well. But really the best recording headphones that PreSonus makes right now are the HD9s. They are extremely good. I have a couple of boxes of them up there, which haven't been unpacked yet from the move, and there's some more boxes of HD9s and HD7s kicking about in the garage, which is full from floor to ceiling, from front to back with stuff. Yeah, it's pretty mental. So, am I still running the music? No, I'm not. That's okay. I was just checking. I was just like, I don't remember actually turning it off, but I clearly did stop it. That's fine. So yeah, Mike from Peace Valley Audio has just walked in the door as well. He says hello all. Mike, glad you're here. But yeah, let's get some questions going. I'm up for some headphones. Headphones? I'm up for some... Gosh, it's because I've just read the word headphones 5 times in the chat. So that's why I said I'm up for some headphones. I'm not up for some headphones. I'm up for some chat and questions. That's so funny. Just Bob says, what do you think of the bone conduction headphones? Never heard of those. I think that might be becoming available for mixing. I don't even know what those are, but that sounds interesting. Bone conduction headphones. I don't think I've ever heard of such things. But please do tell us more. I'd like to know what those are. Bobby Booth is here. We can start the show now, guys. Bobby's here. So, yeah, get your questions into the show, guys, and we can talk Studio One. We can talk mixing, mastering, recording, songwriting, arranging, musicology, music theory, harmony, all that kind of stuff. I can do that. And Peace Valley Audio with the very, very important information. Please make sure to place at Jonny Lipsham Studios before your questions so Jonny sees them. Absolutely. I want to be able to distinguish your questions from the, you guys talking amongst yourselves. I'm absolutely happy for you guys talking amongst yourselves because this is how we build community. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about that community. Oh, I didn't mean to click that button there. Why was I clicking that button? There we go. That's the one I wanted. I'm all about community, and I'm all about building this community with you guys. And I'm so glad that I have this nice little community on a Sunday that gathers together. It's not church, and I'm glad it's not church. I don't want it to be church, particularly, but we have this nice little Sunday evening, in my case, midnight mass. I'm kidding. We have this nice little group, and it's great. I love it. And you guys are fantastic. So I would love to see this group grow and expand beyond the 25 or so that are regularly here on a Sunday. I would love it to grow into the 30s and maybe even into the 40s. That would be great as well. Get some new folks in here. So if you know people who you think this would be great for them, then please do share this show. Share the channel. Just tell them, hey, there is this great place where you can ask all your questions about Studio One. You can ask all your questions about harmony and melody and recording and all of that stuff, and let them know, and then bring them here. It'd be great. So if you've got friends that could use that, then please do let them know about the show. Alps Media asks a great question, and actually I'm going to say let's make that a question for everybody, because I think that's a really, really good one. He says, what would you like to see as the next big feature in Studio One? That's a great question, and I would like everybody to answer that before I even get to mine, because I have several feature requests in at the moment, some of which I've had for a wee while. But now that I actually work for Presonus, kind of a bit easy to make feature requests than it was before. Marco says, I'm genuinely the same way. Genuinely look happy with audio themes. I'm super about chatting for something very, very good to see. Yeah, cool. Okay. Bobby says, I would like Studio One to come up with a way for it to fix me a glass of tea. Yes. I know exactly what you mean. Except I never do it in a glass. You can do it in a glass, providing the glass is heat proof. If you're making like tea at the normal temperature rather than iced tea. Why would you make tea cold and enjoy it as a cold drink? I don't understand that at all. But it is what it is. Some people like it cold and with ice in it, and I just think that's weird. But to each their own, shall we say. Just Bob says, bone conduction headphones send sound waves through plates in place of earbuds that send sound waves into your inner ear, bypassing the ear canal and eardrum, vibrating through your bone. That's an interesting concept. I think it would have value for people who have hearing loss problems. Like, for example, if they have a perforated eardrum, something like that, then yes, I think something like that would have good value. However, my concern would be how much of the frequency spectrum is lost by resistance with your bones. Because that's always been the problem with, those cochlear implants for people who are deaf, is that, yes, it restores quite a lot of their hearing. And for some people who are profoundly deaf, it means that they can hear for the first time ever. And I've actually seen that happen for somebody. I went with a friend of mine many, many years ago who was profoundly deaf. And I spent quite a lot of time learning British Sign Language so I could have good conversations with my friend. And then he told me one day, he told me out of the blue, he says, I'm having cochlear implants. I was just like, great, that's really exciting. And he says, I want you to be there when I have them first, tested and all of that. So I went with him, and we went on the bus because of what he was having done, he was told that he should not drive his car. So we went on the bus, and all the way on the bus ride, he was chatting away in sign language. He's way faster than me, so I only pick up the gist of what he's saying most of the time. But anyway, so we talked about that, and we talked about his expectations, what he kind of thought was going to happen. And then when he had them installed, first thing I did was I spoke to him. He'd never heard me speak. And he's just like, I had no idea your voice sounded like that. He was an expert lip reader, so he's just like, I could tell you're Scottish because of how you move your mouth. I could tell that, he said, but he was just like, I had no idea your voice sounded like that. And then he wanted to listen to music and, records that he'd only ever felt through his feet. Because that's how he would listen to music. He would put bare feet on the wood floor of his lounge, and that's how he would hear music. And so now with these cochlear implants, he's just like, wow, this is really, it was profound. It was a profound experience for him and profound experience for me because obviously having always had hearing, I could not completely relate to it. But one thing he did say, which is really interesting, he says, I don't hear any bass, whereas I used to feel the bass all the time. And he says, now I don't really hear it so much. And that was to do with the technology of the implants, not quite so much low end. So I that would be my concern about those particular style of headphones. It was a long way of saying that, but Bobby says, I like tea both ways. Okay, all right, I'll take that, Bobby. I will absolutely take that. But for tea to be made properly, you have to leave. I mean, certainly there's various conventions to which I adhere to none of them. But one thing I do recommend is the hot water gets poured over the tea bag. Tea bag stays in for between 30 seconds and a minute and a half. Then you give the tea bag a bit of a stir around, and that helps the tea kind of brew extra quickly, because I don't like hanging around waiting for my cup of tea. Some people say, yes, you need to leave it in. You need to leave the bag in there for 3 whole minutes. No. That's 3 whole minutes of nonsense. Get that in there, get it out of there, then add cold milk. And it has to be properly refrigerated cold milk. And I only have a little splash of cold milk. And then I have 2 heaped teaspoons of sugar, give that a stir. And that, to me, is how you make a darn good cup of tea. Now, not everybody is going to like sugar in their tea. I grant you that. But that's how I currently have it. Sometimes I don't have any. Sometimes I don't have any sugar in my tea. Like if we've run out of sugar, I'll drink tea without it because I'm that, I have to have my tea. But yeah, that's cool. Mike at Peace Valley Audio says, not a tea guy. I would like a coffee maker and built-in water dispenser. Guess what I have at the back of the studio there? You can probably see it. It looks like a kettle, but it really isn't. It's actually a hot tap. It dispenses hot water. And all you do is you stick your mug under it, you press the button, and it vents hot water in about 15 seconds. It is a little bit on the noisy side, but it's really good. Just, kind of don't do it at like 2 o'clock in the morning because then you'll freak everybody out with the noise it makes, which is interesting. But yeah, that's what I have. And I have over here, which you can't really see, but I have a mini fridge, and it has all my milk in it. And then I have tea bags and sugar and stuff in the drawer over there. There you go, giving away all my secrets. And that means that I can kind of stay up here and I don't really have to go down to the kitchen to go and get my cup of tea, which means I never spill my tea on the stairs. So, so there you go. Let's see. Music Motion says, those implants are amazing. The videos of people hearing for the first time are great. Yes, they are. And yes, my friend did cry the first time I spoke to him and I said his name. He was just like totally blown away. And then he laughed because he was just like, I knew you were Scottish. I knew you sounded Scottish. That was funny. Okay. Dwayne says, Studio One request. I would like to know which version of Studio One is being used to mix a session by file name somehow. I would like to know which version of Studio One is being used to mix a session by file name. That's... Okay. I think I understand that one. Because I think the use case there is if you're working with somebody who sends you a Studio One song that was made in Studio One 4, and you know that you have to be careful if you open it up in Studio One 5, and then you're going to send it back to them, maybe, I don't know. Then yes, you have to be a little bit careful. But otherwise, I'm not really that's the only use case I can think of for that, but that's a cool one. If you have not already made it a feature request over at answers.presonus.com, I recommend you go do that. But that's a good one. That's cool. Don Oliver says, I just got my Arturia MX2. Have you ever played with Arturia keyboards? I have seen them, and I have been at trade shows where they have been, and I've had to play on some of them. I'll admit to you something. I'm not actually that big on keyboards. I know I have two here. There's a caveat here. Let me explain. This keyboard here, this is the Clavier Nord Stage 88 Revision B from about 2006. So it's not new. It's actually pretty elderly now in keyboard terms. But it has fully modeled samples of real instruments like that Fender Rhodes Mark V. I happen to have a Fender Rhodes Mark V, and that sounds identical to my Fender Rhodes Mark V. The thing with my Fender Rhodes Mark V is it periodically needs tuned because it doesn't necessarily adjust very well to environmental things like it being hot, it being cold, humidity, dew point, and all of that. It doesn't necessarily respond very well to those kind of factors because it's old. It's a 1977 model. So that's why I have this one in here, because it doesn't need that, and it samples it perfectly. It's also got a piano and a Hammond organ on here. In fact, it's got a fair few pianos and Hammond organs and things like that on it, and it's got a clavinet. It's got everything I need, but they actually sound like identical to the real instruments, having played the real instruments. And it's also got a Steinway Concert Grand on here, and it's got a Bosendorfer Concert Grand. I've played both of those pianos. I've played a Steinway concert grand at Abbey Road Studios many years ago, and I played a Bosendorfer at Angel Studios for a film score maybe about 15 or 16 years ago, just before I moved back to Scotland. So these sound identical. It's so hard to tell them apart from the real instrument. And I've got this Yamaha QS300 from about 1993, and I just use it for it's a MIDI controller. That's all it is. So I'm not really a big kind of keyboard and integration and all of that kind of guy. I know that there are keyboards out there where you've got all sorts of control and drum pads. Some of them have got and sliders and things like that for controlling the envelopes and things like that. I'm not really into that kind of thing because I'm not really a synthy kind of guy, particularly. I have a wind synth, and that's probably about as far as I go with synthesis. I'll be honest. Mika's here. Hello, Mika. Good to see you. But yeah. But they look pretty cool. Arturia keyboards look pretty cool, for sure. Mika, that's interesting information about cochlear implants and stuff like that. I know that my friend was born deaf. He had no hearing, so he was always deaf. So nothing to do with oxycoding or anything like that. In his case, Daryl Harrison is here. Hello, Daryl. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. John Lake asks, can you explain sus chords, 7th, 12th, and so on? I can explain what a sus chord is. Let's flip over to... Since we're talking about concert grands, this is the Steinway. And I really like it, and there's no reverb on it right now, but I can add reverb. But a sus chord basically is taking away the third of the chord and replacing the third of the chord with the fourth. And you get this kind of sound. And it just sounds really open. And there's some songs like a good number of ABBA songs have this kind of thing going on. You're kind of like the sus chord, resolve it, then down to the 2, then back to the 3rd. And it's actually an interesting way to just decorate just a G major chord in this case, instead of just going. Which is a little bit boring, so, why not make it give it a little bit of movement and interest. So I can totally see kind of where that idea comes from. However, you can make it a lot more jazzy. And particularly Donald Fagen and Stevie Wonder and Bruce Hornsby and people like that are quite fond of extending that idea into like a 7th chord. So add the 7th to it. But you can extend that out so that it's not just a 7th chord, but kind of add the 6th above the 7th. So you get this interval here. Now, in the context of a 7th chord, you wouldn't just call this G6 with a 7th. You call this G13. There's the 3rd. But if you were to raise that 3rd up to the 4th, you'd get this sound. which kind of like substitutes nicely for this kind of church kind of plagal cadence. Strip it out, make it a little bit more open. You know, and you can just have fun with that. But that's kind of how that kind of open, suspended kind of sound works with a 13. And you can just like make all sorts of endless vamps out of that kind of thing. And it's good fun to play. So, John, I hope that answers that question. Marco says, Presonus thinks about emulations toward headphones and monitors, like one consecrated bland plugin about enhancement. Yeah, I don't know what that means, I'll admit. But yes, there are things like the virtual Abbey Road thing where you can stick a pair of headphones on and it's like you're mixing your music in Studio B at Abbey Road Studios, or there's a couple of others that are kind of like that, that are interesting. There's a Slate Digital one as well. And they're kind of interesting. I'm not poo-pooing the idea, and I did say poo-poo, and I said it without going into smirk mode and being childish, which is out of character for me. But yeah, they're interesting. I've never used them. I don't really know anything about them, other than, they're an interesting concept. I'm not really sure how much value they actually have, other than it emulates a particular mixing room, and maybe you want to mix your music in that particular mixing room. And I suppose from that point of view, it does take your room totally out of the equation and leave you with, mixing in another, I suppose, acoustically treated environment. But how well it kind of accurately simulates that particular room, I'm not entirely sure. And I'm also not entirely sure with how much that actually helps you with your mixing. But that's just my personal opinion. Mika says, one of the big issues with headphone EQ emulators is the headphone preamps in affordable interfaces. Most are crap. I used Neve Design NRHP headphone amplifier for consistency. Yeah, quite a lot of them are rubbish. I will agree with you to a degree there, Mika, that a lot of headphone preamps tend to be on the cheaper side. Maybe the microphone preamps and the outputs for your speakers the circuitry is a little bit more expensively made, and then the headphones tend to be kind of, just practical rather than, anything with any particular finesse. There's probably a lot of maybe 2-channel interfaces at the lower end of the affordability spectrum where you might encounter that, for sure. I would agree with that. And I do think it's hilarious that there is a company called Shit Audio. But that's my maturity coming through once again. But yeah. So I hope that kind of answers that kind of headphones kind of question. And John Lake, I hope that answers your harmony question. It's a good question because I actually really like that sound. That kind of G13 suspended and then resolving it to a G7 chord. And it also works, quite nicely for kind of like a blues thing as well. So you can have hours and hours of endless fun with that kind of a sound for kind of a bit of a kind of rhythm and bluesy shuffle thing like that, or something with a little bit more of a backbeat and funk to it. And they're great fun, those kind of chords. Let's see. Yes, indeed. The website, Mike, the web address does not really help me particularly with my maturity. For certain, www.shit.com. I like that. Anyway, Marco says Studio One works fine with any analog. Example, phonic, Behringer limiter, reel-to-reel tape. Yeah, you can use all sorts of outboard gear with Studio One. Absolutely. And that's why we have a plugin called Pipeline in Studio One. Pipeline is fantastic. It enables you not only to get your audio through outboard gear and back into Studio One, but there's all sorts of latency compensation built into it, and it's an incredibly helpful little tool for those that use things like outboard compressors and EQs, or they want to go out to I don't know, a 2-track tape machine and then back in onto a print track in the DAW. Then yes, something like Pipeline is fantastic for that. The thing to remember though is you're going to have to do any rendering in real time, because it has to go out from your DAW through Pipeline into your external hardware and then back in real time. So when you're doing a mix down at the end of your session, you're just going to have to let it do its thing in real time and go make a cup of tea and then come back, and hopefully it will have completed the render by that point. You cannot do offline rendering or offline bouncing when you're using Pipeline. And that is by design. Yes, Mike. I totally get that they're a real company, but it is hilarious. They really ought to have thought that one through a little bit more, but that's just my immature opinion. Just Bob says, interesting spelling of studios there, Bob. What all does it take to move third-party VSTs to a new computer? Is it simply back up an external and then move to your C drive on your new computer? That would be part of it. The other part of it is you would need to install the licenses and actually activate the licenses for those plugins on your new computer again. So you'd have to do a fresh activation of your licenses. Where this is different is for those plugins that use something like an e-licenser from Steinberg, or one of these horrible little critters, the iLok. If you're using an iLok, then all of your licenses should be installed on this little guy, and it should just be a case of you copy the actual plugins, the actual DLLs across from one computer to another, and then you stuff this into the new computer and make sure that the licenses are all pointing to this guy, and you should be able to connect everything up that way. That's one of the benefits of the iLok, is that you can just take your plugins around wherever you go, and you can actually just connect that to your key fob if you want, so that you never lose your plugins. If you're going from studio to studio or computer to computer and you want to use the same set of plugins, you can do. But iLoks are a pain in the butt and prone to crashing, prone to becoming corrupt, prone to all sorts of funky issues that can take a long time to get solved, which is why I no longer use mine for that reason. But yes. Mika says it's a big hit with the budget audiophile community. I bet it is. And yes, Music to Motion says doing a fresh install of VSTs is suggested. Yes, if your licenses are dongle free, so no e-licenser, no iLock or anything like that. Let's say you've got a whole bunch of Waves plugins, or you've got a whole bunch of Plugin Alliance plugins. All you need to do is make sure that you've got the Wave Central or the Plugin Alliance installer on your new computer. Make sure it's connected to your accounts, and then you just do a fresh install, and it should just be that simple. I changed computers just over a year ago, and I had to do that. The fun part was my previous computer was a Windows 7 machine, and this guy is a Windows 10 machine. And the fun part of that for me was that some of my old Waves plugins no longer worked. And still to this day haven't worked. And in fact, they are just no longer supported by either Waves, and also by PreSonus. They won't work in Studio One either. And of course, the whole kind of, update plan that Waves have is a whole nother subject that I will not get into. Check out the software Audio Grader. It lets you use an old or second computer to run your VSTs offline without loading down your DAW computer. It is amazing. Yes, I have heard of that. I have heard of Audio Grader, and I've heard it's pretty good. So yeah, folks, if you're interested in that kind of thing, it's worth doing. It really doesn't bother me very much because my computer isn't really that much bogged down, because I do not have thousands of plugins. I refuse to have thousands of plugins, and there are many and variegated reasons for that for me. One of which is I don't see the benefit of having 50 LA2As or 50 Neve EQs or 50 Pultec EQs. A Pultec it's a Pultec. Now obviously you're going to get some manufacturers that emulate the Pultec plugin better than others, and some actually, sounds like I'm kind of arguing against myself here, but some will have been modeling their plugin off of one particular hardware unit, and another company will have modeled theirs off another completely different hardware unit. Now, we all know that things like Pultecs, one unit can sound very different to another unit. I mean, they've got that Pultec sound, but there will be definite distinctives between one unit and another because they are handmade. So, there's that. Which would argue for the case for having, a Waves Pultec, a Slate Digital Pultec, a PreSonus One, whomever else, a Warm Audio One, whatever, But personally for me, I don't agree with having 50 Pultec EQs. I just want a Pultec EQ that sounds good and works and gives me that Pultec sound that I want for that particular audio source, and I'm not having to sort through a list of 50 Pultec EQs to find the one that I'm after. I've just got the one there, and I can just go bump bump, done. I have lots of friends who have thousands of plugins, and I'm just like, okay, so when you're deciding what EQ you want, you know that you want a Neve EQ sound, so you then go raking through your list of Neve EQs to try and find the one you want. In the time it's taken you to find the particular Neve EQ that you want to use on that particular source audio, I have already done that channel and I've moved on to the next. Or I've moved on to the next 3 channels and I've done those. So for me, maybe it's a little bit about laziness for me. Maybe it's also a little bit about efficiency as well. I like to mix pretty quickly. Without just being recklessly quick. I know people who they just do and they move so fast and they're making decisions so fast, it's almost like they're mixing impulsively. And I don't think that that's a good idea either. Yes, be quick. Get through the process quickly because time is money. But, don't be careless. Don't be reckless. But there we go. Amika's talking about Acoustica plugins there. I like Acoustica audio plugins. I don't have any, but a friend of mine who uses Logic and whose studio I go and work in quite a bit, or at least I did before the pandemic. He is a big Acoustica audio fan. So yeah, there's that. These days I just send him my stems out of Studio One. Because, you know, the pandemic means I can't actually go to his very nice studio. He has a very nice studio. But there we go. I've caught up with questions. I don't think I've missed anybody's. If I've missed your question, please repost it. I would appreciate it. I'm just kind of scrolling to see if I've missed anything. Tony says, I like the Presonus plugins, and when I need some delay, I use iZotope. iZotope make great plugins. I have a bunch of iZotope plugins. They do some amazing plugins that do wondrous and amazing things that make me go, how on earth do their plugins do that? Yeah, I'm a big fan of iZotope. Particularly the RX plugins. They are amazing, because one of the things I do a lot is I do audiobooks, and I do podcasts for people as well. I mix audiobooks and I mix podcasts. That's one of the big things at the moment I've been doing. So I went and got myself the RX plugins, and they are amazing at being able to clean up audio and make it sound pristine and awesome. And it means that what I'm able to deliver to these folks that have recorded their podcasts in maybe not the best sounding rooms or the best sounding environments, using the iZotope plugins, I'm able to really, really clean them up and make them sound, make their audios just sound like it's radio, it's broadcast quality. Used Motion says RX8 is just plain magic. It is. It's like voodoo. It's like audio voodoo. It's incredible. I'm just like, wow, how does it do that? I used to use the Waves NS1 for just cleaning up background noise, and that actually works really, really well. If anybody's ever tried the Waves NS1, I recommend you go try it, because it's dead easy. It's just a single fader, and you just dial up the fader, and it preserves the audio, the source audio in the foreground, whilst getting rid of the background noise. It's great for, you know, a guitar amp that's got a nasty kind of earth hum or something, and because it's not been earthed very well. And it's just really, really good at that. Or, you know, if there's like background sounds like a police siren going past during a vocal recording, but the vocal recording is really great and you like it, you want to keep it, but you want to get rid of that police siren. It's dead easy with that little fader, and you just dial it up. I have no idea what it's doing under the hood, but it's pretty impressive. Mike, Peace Valley Audio says, the only third-party plugins I'm big on anymore is the Plugin Alliance SSL and Neves channel strips. Yes, totally agree with that. And I want the APIs, but it's a bit expensive for me. Yeah, you know what, though, Mike, is a pretty good solution is to sign up to their Mix and Master bundle, which is only, I think, last time I checked, $10 or $12 per month, something like that. And I think those are all included in it, if I'm not mistaken. So that might be a good way for you to be able to get those API channel strips. Tony says, you didn't get my drift. I'll get a lot of delay when I use them. Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, I apologize. I thought you were talking about a delay plugin. Sorry. Rich Cresswell was here. He's one of our new moderators, and he says, just popping in to say hi. I'll need to be up at 0530. Wow. Yeah, that's an early start. I will be up maybe an hour after that, so I'll be going to bed in about 15 minutes. I get a lot of delay when I use them, though, but they are very good, says Tony. Yeah, that kind of delay can be caused by a whole bunch of things. In your case, I'm not really 100% sure. Levels from mastering the mix. Yeah, I've heard good things about that. Maybe perhaps I'd use Studio One plugins if it be my main DAW. You know what? Here's the thing. We're all talking about third-party plugins. Native plugins in any DAW in 2021 are amazing. They are amazing. No question about it. I used Cubase for over 30 years. No, not over 30 years, just under 30 years, 28, 29 years. And I used for a good portion of that time just what comes with Cubase, and they're really good. They are really good. You can get a great professional sounding mix just using the Cubase plugins. You can do the same thing in Logic. You can do the same thing in Reaper. Now, the thing with the Reaper plugins, the GUIs may look a little bit crap, and they do, but the net result is pretty darn good. Reaper's a surprisingly agile, if clunky, and if cluttered GUI-wise, it's a pretty good DAW. And it's free as well, sort of. But yes, native plugins are amazing, and the ones that you get in Studio One, certainly with Studio One 5, now that they've had a bit of a makeover and a bit of an overhaul, they are truly extraordinary. They are truly brilliant plugins. The Pro EQ is a fantastic, transparent, surgical EQ. It's great. Love it. The compressor, again, it's transparent. It doesn't add any coloration whatsoever. So if you're just looking for something that will compress, it will do that. And it will do it extremely well. On the other hand, if you're after some color, there's the Fat Channel. Fat Channel now has Pultec and Neve style EQs and a couple of other style EQs. And it's got a really good LA2A, and it's got a really good 1176 compressor, and there's a few others that you can get as well for extra, unless you join Personasphere, in which case you get the full bundle of the Fat Channel collection. And then of course you've got the Retro Mix Legends Mix Effects engine plugins, which are amazing if you're into consoles and getting that console sound. They're outstanding, Marcos. So I thoroughly recommend you join the tribe, become a family member of Persona Studio One. And I'm not just saying that because I work for Personas. Anyway, Mike says, I use native plugins all the time now. The improvements Personas made in version 5 are amazing. Yes, they really are. We worked incredibly hard on them. And the results, I think, speak for themselves. Secret Squirrel is here. He says, sorry to be late. I honestly forgot as I'm new to this stream. Don't worry, not a problem. Glad you could make it anyway. We've only got about 7 or 8 minutes to go, but I'm glad you're here. And you can always, catch the replay and catch out all the other questions and all the other news as well. Cleon is here. He says the Tube Tech clone in Studio One is great and comparatively better in my opinion than the UAD version. I wholeheartedly agree. I think of all those emulated plugins in the UAD collection, I think their Tube Techs are among their weaker emulations, and I think I agree. I think our one is that bit better. My old friend Dave Vignola did a shootout of those, and he came to the same conclusion. Marcus says, for me, the only built-in plugin about Studio One I don't like is the image of binaural pan. It's actually very good. It's very simple. All it does is widen And the way it does that primarily is by turning up the sides of the mix, so that the sides are better balanced against the mid. That's kind of what it does. It's actually really simple, and it's meant to be that simple, but it really does work. But if you push it too far, you can really mess up your mix. If you push that like really, really far, to be honest, the best way to get a wide stereo image is to mix for a wide stereo image. And, you know, just use imaging plugins just to kind of just tease the edges a little bit more. And you can also do some mid-side processing as well to kind of round that whole process of widening your mix as well. That's what I do. I mix things nice and broad and wide, and I pan things fully hard left and fully hard right. But I do also do, you know, the bits in between. I'm not just a strict hard left, strict hard right, and up the middle kind of guy. I know that there are some mix engineers who do that. They're just left, center, right, and that's what they do. I do mostly left and right and center, and then I will finesse and move things a little bit about between those extremes. But yeah, my intention is always to kind of mix for a wide, broad stereo image. And I aim to mostly achieve that with good panning decisions, and also with you know, things like reverbs, delays can help as well. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Mika says, get the free Melder production bundle. It has a good stereo expander as well as spectral panning in conjunction. They're really good. Did I mention they're free? Yeah, Mika, I've heard good things about those as well. Rich says, we spoke about the Gullfoss by Sound Theory during the Studio One UK meetup, so I think it's worth a shout out here, but for me, stock does 90% of what I do. Yeah, Rich, I totally agree. And thanks for bringing that up. I think it's definitely worth a good shout out. Like I said, I still don't know very much about it, but I'm willing to take a look. For sure. Binaural pan is fantastic when working with cinematic libraries for setting a stage. Yes, definitely agree. The AMIC 1999 is now my go-to channel straight. When you hit the expand in Studio One mixer, you get access to all the parameters, which is great. Cool. Did not know that. Secret Squirrel says, I'm seeking perhaps the last quote tool piece which I need for the direction I'm to go. But before I ask, do you have to deal with 3D sound ambisonic mixes? No, I don't. Personally, I don't. And currently Studio One does not really support it. But one thing I'm aware of is that there are plenty of I think there's a couple of feature requests in there, but in there at answers.presonus.com. But what I would recommend you do is don't make another one, please. Because what we do is we regularly go through and we purge duplicate feature requests. And we just leave the ones that have the most vote ups. So the thing to do is go and vote those up. And the more votes they get, the higher up the chain of what catches the attention of the development team it goes. And so, yeah, I think that's an important thing to do. If ambisonics is kind of where you're heading in and you want to kind of stay in the whole Studio One arena, then make that feature request if it's not already there. But I think there's a couple there. So find the one that's got the most votes and go and add your vote to it, and then go and, you know, share that with folks who are also using Studio One that are also going in the same direction that you are, and get them to do the same so that it gets a lot more votes. And as I say, the more votes, the better. The more chance that has to being added to Studio One at some point down the line. I've had feature requests get added to Studio One even before I started working for Presonus. In my early days, there were things that I was just like, it would be great if we had this, and then I'd go and make a feature request for it, and then, you know, maybe a version or an update or a version later, there it is, the very thing that I had requested. It's there in the door. So, you know, they do take notice, they do listen, and the feature requests over at answers.presonus.com is the place to go and do that. And it does work. It's not just, you know, not just something that gets ignored. Okay, I think we are done because it is now 1 a.m. So thank you everybody for your very kind words, particularly with the news I had to share with you at the start. Like I said, I'm not really going to go into details other than to kind of, you know, give you the strongest hint I can do, which is, you know, COVID-19 has hit pretty close to home with my family in a bad way. And so we are currently very sad, we're in a season of grieving. So thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for your kind thoughts and your words. Appreciate it a lot. It's not a nice situation, and it's going to take a little bit of time for us to all kind of work it out and work through it. But we will, and we'll come out the other side for sure. But thank you for your great questions, and thank you for your company. I appreciate you guys such a lot, and I hope you realize that I really do appreciate you guys, and I'm not just saying it because it's a nice thing to say. I'm saying it because I mean it. You guys are great, and I love this little community. So if you found this show useful and helpful, you know what to do. I think it's over here. I keep on doing this way because that's how I look at it, but it's over here for you guys. Hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and choose all notifications, and then you will get to see not only this show, you'll get notifications to remind you about this show, but you'll also get notifications of any other videos that I make, and I have currently a backlog of videos that I am working through. There will be some new content coming very, very soon, and some of it is pretty darn exciting, I can tell you that much, but that's all I can tell you. So until next time, folks, thanks so much for coming. And I'll see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified over on the Home Studio Trainer YouTube channel. See you then. Good night.